target another group or a smaller group that would appreciate you or your product or your service a little bit more. And going abroad might be another step down the road in the future.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Uncensored Direct Marketing. I have a very special guest with us today. I have Sven, the owner and founder of Digistore24. So welcome, Sven.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Sven, I mean, I'll let you get to a short intro of yourself, but one thing that I found interesting when I was kind of preparing for the episode and looking at your profile, your mission statement. So you say your mission is to help people monetize their passion by driving digital innovation. Tell me what that means for you. Like, give me an example.
Okay. So my company, Digistore24, is an online infrastructure for online payments, for affiliate marketing, and let's just say for online sales in general. So my company, and therefore we are empowering people to do sales online. So as a focus, we see traffic and conversion as like one of the most important factors we're actually working on. And of course, this enables me to help a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's my biggest passion. And usually they sell information products. They sell information about relevant things they are passionate about themselves. So I think it's great. I mean, the digital age makes it really possible. If you have a hobby, if you have an interest, if you got something you're passionate about, you can monetize it. You can make a digital product, you can create a digital product, you can sell it online, you can do marketing on social media, etc. And I think that's just a great thing, and that's my mission.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. So kind of diving in a little bit to your history and how you got to create what the world knows as Digistore24. Tell me a little bit about, what led you to this path to start this company.
So I used to be a dentist, but that wasn't really fun for me. I always knew like I was kind of entrepreneurial. I wanted to grow a business. I was somehow profit oriented. I wanted to create revenue. So already in my student days, I felt like everything was a little bit off. And so I really started I tried to figure out how could I start a business coming from a background without any money, because my parents, they're not wealthy or anything. So I don't inherit anything. They cannot give me money. So I was trying to figure out while I was studying, how can I actually start a company? Because that's what I ultimately wanted. So I came across online marketing and Google ads and stuff like that. And that was already in my studies. And after I graduated as a dentist, I kind of played around with online marketing. I created my first ebooks. I sold them online, and it was quite successful after a while. However, I needed a platform to make my life easier. It was really hard. If you want to do online sales, it's not just creating an ebook, a product. You actually, 10 years ago, there was no real infrastructure online for selling your ebooks properly.
Okay.
So what I tried was I tried to bring all the things I technically needed together, create a platform that I could use for my own products. And I just told my friends about it, and they liked it, and they shared it between them, because this online marketing world's pretty small, especially 10 years ago was a lot smaller than it is now, and kind of became viral, and here we are.
Wow. So I mean, the nice thing about that is almost like rags to riches kind of story is the best entrepreneurs are always the ones that have to kind of, figure out and dig and find solutions and nothing handed to them. So, I commend you for that and growing such a nice company. So digging in a little bit into Digistore24, I've had the opportunity to work with different people on your team. And one thing I noticed is that it just seems like everybody's kind of scattered all over the world. So I'm assuming that's not just COVID related. That maybe is something that was a vision or a part of your, growth, was to kind of hire people from different parts of the world.
Yes, it already started like the founding team, me and my partners, like from the very get-go, we lived in different cities. So in different parts of Germany, actually. And the thing about us was like every one of us liked to work from home. So we couldn't have like a central gathering place where we would meet like in an office. And for many, many years, we had a bad conscience about it. We felt bad about it. We're like, oh, we're not like the other companies are. We should be more serious. We should have like a central office and everyone should live like in the same town. But that was never really a thing for us. Like it just evolved naturally. So and later on we tried to centralize everything into like one central place, but we quickly ran into the challenge that we, like being a tech company and we're really a software company, you need the best talent, but the best talent is distributed everywhere. Like there is like very rarely there's like a central place where you can find all the best people. Maybe Silicon Valley, maybe that's a place. But the problem about Silicon Valley is there's these big companies, you're competing with Google, Amazon, etc. for developers, etc. So I could never afford that because we didn't, we didn't like get VC funds or anything. So we just built the company organically. We never got any, we never had any investor or loan or anything. It just grew organically, and that was really possible by finding the best people, finding a way to collaborate through the distance and work remotely. And so that kind of became our DNA. And let's say during the let's call it COVID period, it turned out to be a big advantage because we didn't have to change anything. We were already there, so we could operate normally.
So, I mean, at Digistore24, like, and your daily, your daily conundrums and stuff that's going on. What do you love the most about your role there? Like, what do you like? Like, if you can just say, you know what, I just want to focus on this and that's it. What is that, like the thing that you love the most about the company and doing specifically?
What I really like about my role being the founder and CEO, we also have a CEO for the US business, Francis Wolf, is that I can be creative, that I can shape like the whole thing as a whole, not just an aspect, not just like, okay, the marketing or the sales or the software. I can shape everything in one big piece. And it's like an intellectual game. I think of like, just like a sports team, I want to win. Like, how do I know if I win? If we create revenue and if people actually use the software. If I see that, then I win. And that's really fun for me, to create things that are valuable to other people. And I think this is also like the ultimate purpose, because a lot of people are searching for a purpose, a higher purpose in life. And how can I find my passion, my vision, my mission, my purpose? Well, it's in my opinion, it's quite simple. You have to find a way to create value for other people that's really fun for you. And then you'll be taken care of. Then you won't count the hours till, let's say, the end of the workday, etc. Then everything will be really fun. And then life feels really meaningful. And then you never get like into a situation in which, oh, you reached that goal and now you're depressed because you already reached your goal. If your goal is to help other people and to empower other people, it never stops. But the process is fun, and the process releases dopamine, and ultimately, let's say, neurophysiologically, that's what you want.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I always, when I meet different founders of different companies, I'm always curious, what keeps them going? You know what I mean? What, like, for me, I've been, managing and owning. I founded Direct PayNet, and it's been 12 years. And sometimes I'm like, 12 years. That's like, I never imagined myself prior to Direct PayNet. I could never hold a job more than 2 years, because I was like, I got to get out of here. I can't do this anymore, and whatever. And now it's been 12 years, and every day there's something new, there's something different, there's a new person, like you said, I can help. And I think it comes down to, at least for me, on the management side, I'm not a big fan of managing people in general. Like, I just kind of like people to be able to figure their own stuff out. And then we come together as a team. So thankfully I have good people that are able to self-manage, call it. But for me, it's I'll get like a strange lead, or I'll get like just a weird situation that just gets my brain kind of thinking, oh, is this a new business line? Is this something that maybe we should kind of explore, and whatever? And being an entrepreneur gives me that opportunity. That's how I see, entrepreneurship is. It gives me the opportunity to say, this morning, you know what, I'm going to wake up and see if we can develop a new business line, or if we can take this business line and move it here, or expand here, and whatever. So it's interesting to see your perspective. But, you are a busy guy. You said there's 200 people on your staff. You also have your own podcast, and you have a lot of projects. So what is your basis of time management? Like, how do you have like focus periods? Do you have like, tell me like how you organize to get everything done?
So I'm not, I haven't mastered this ultimately. I feel like I'm falling behind in a lot of things, to be honest. So I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice, but I can tell you what I figured out so far. What I figured out is the most important thing is that you have priorities, and you have to like be quite strict with your priorities, and you have to be able to identify what really creates the greatest impact on like in relation to achieving your goals. And for us, it's, for example, at Digistore24, it's especially everything around traffic and conversion. So traffic means, let's say, integration with Facebook and with maybe other analytics tools, and analytics in general, like the Digistore analytics, that give you a lot of data about what your customer is actually doing. And secondly, of course, conversion. And conversion is improved by brand, and that includes content marketing, and of course the shopping carts and the reputation of the company in general. So it's always good to focus on your priorities and to kind of like manage your energy. And this is also where like remote work comes in pretty handy. If you're able to manage your own energy, and if you can allocate like the most important tasks to the time period in which you have the most energy and the best focus, then I think you're good. And it's also like a matter of planning a little bit of buffer time, so not to stress yourself too much, because there might be something you have to research or that will slow you down, and so you shouldn't fall off your track. But I think if you make like a weighted to-do list where you have like categories A, B, C, D, this method, like urgent and important, just important, urgent, unimportant, and neither urgent nor important, and you go that way, then I think that really helps already. Of course, you should also get enough sleep. You should like I, for example, I have a blue light filter in my glasses, so my melatonin doesn't get screwed too much in the afternoon, because of all the LED lights. Like we live in a very unhealthy environment nowadays, especially like the lights are pretty much pollution for your body. So it messes with your circadian rhythm, that messes with your sleep quality. So you have to kind of fix it. You have to act proactively to improve. So it's a lot about self-improvement.
So basically you manage, the thing that I like about what you said and how you finished it is that, okay, yes, we have to prioritize. So my list is actually $3 signs, $2 signs, $1 sign. So like most money, middle money, and whatever. And a lot of people tell me that I'm very greedy and I'm money hungry and stuff like that. But to me, it's like, is it gonna, when it has an impact on money, it has an impact on every aspect and everybody on the business. It doesn't mean that it's just a contract. It could be something that's like a side task that I need to do in order to, like, for example, I need to fix a feature in our CRM in order to make things go faster so we can process more leads or whatever the case is. But, I try to do that at least once a week. And I think I revise it every day because sometimes it's like something new. But one thing I've struggled with is, like you just said now, is life and work balance. Is that getting enough sleep, getting all that stuff is kind of like maintenance that a lot of people forget that needs to be done in order to have your priority list and be able to kind of slam it and do it. But I've toyed around, and let me know if you've done this before, but I have a schedule with like color coded stuff, this time, this day, whatever. I've just like really suck at it. And every time something happens and, that person can't schedule. And it just, to me, at least, like having like a very kind of concrete schedule always leads me to be disappointed because I'm like, I didn't even follow the schedule again today. And it just,
I totally can relate to that. I used to make like to-do lists and I would never achieve them. And that frustrated the hell out of me. It was crazy. But what you then can do is like you can lower the expectations a little bit. You can say, okay, from all the things, what's the one thing that I want to achieve today? If you can achieve 3 things that are really important, that let's say have $3 signs, speak in your terms, what's the one thing that you want from this day? And then just mainly focus on this thing and make it a must-have, and the rest a nice-to-have.
Yeah.
And this is really cool. And then also, like, I think what's really, it's really about, life is really complicated because you have to keep into account a lot of things. I can only do great work when I don't feel tired. But in order to not feel tired, I have to do certain things.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the time of the day. It depends on how I slept last night. And sometimes a quick nap helps and like is more productive than not doing it. That's also why I like remote work. It's really just about the output. And so I think it also requires some kind of, you have to really work on ways to get energy and really recover. Like, for example, if you watch Netflix, that doesn't really recover you. No. It's another screen you're looking at. If you browse the internet or Instagram, it doesn't really recover you. What would recover you would be taking a walk, going for a walk. And I don't know, go to your favorite restaurant or something. But you really have to figure out the little things that recover you. For me, it's Muay Thai, it's sports, it's weight training, it's yoga. It's ice baths, for example, and going for a walk. Like I jump into the ice cold.
And ice cold water, like you fill it up with ice and you just take it. Wow. Okay. So like a polar bear jump, they have those polar swims and stuff. Wow. So you started in the German market, and you guys are, you're crushing it in Germany still. You're still working a lot in the German market. What are some of the challenges that you find when you went to the States, when you started, marketing more? Did you find that the same thing happens? Is it always kind of the same things to market, or were you surprised by a couple of things?
Oh, I was surprised in a way that, let's say in general, Germans are a lot more focused on not to lose money. So they're really focused on, refund prevention, if that's even a word in the US, I don't know. They want to prevent refunds as good as they can. And they like to have like a process for debt collection, etc. In the US, those two are not really of interest. The people from the US want to increase their revenue. They want higher conversions. They want more traffic, more sales, basically. Less work, of course. That's our motto, by the way, with Digistore: more sales, less work.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool in my opinion. And so it's kind of the opposite. Like the focus is on the opposite sides, which is great for us as a platform, because if we get both ends really right, then we're really a well-rounded platform. Also in regards of looking at the rest of the world as a market.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I do find I deal a lot with Europeans and I deal a lot with Americans. I'm Canadian, so I'm kind of in between, but there is, there's a lot of Americans that, we have a lot of American merchants that try to cross over the pond and they don't find the same kind of outcome to their offers and so forth, because the consumer is also different, not insanely different, but their purchasing habits and so forth. In terms of digital products and just like the wants and needs of the digital products, do you find that a lot of, like your German products and so forth, have you been able to take any or what are the keys to taking a, let's say, successful offer in Germany or in the UK and bringing it to the US or vice versa?
That doesn't really happen too much.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't see that happening a lot because, it's not just bringing the sales process over. It's also organizing support. It basically doubles your work, and not a lot of companies from Europe have made it overseas and enter the US market. That just doesn't really happen. I mean, I don't see that a lot. I know that right now, we promoted that idea on our last conference where we invited in our most valuable partner group, we invited like 40 of our top vendors and affiliates, and we held a conference with them. We had some good times with them in Dubai. And so we promoted that idea, and now the first ones are also moving towards that direction. But in general, when people ask me, like, unless you have and unless your business is like already pretty stable and growing and quite automated, so that as a founder or business owner, you can think about starting that business as well, it's very hard to do because you would have to figure out the marketing there. We have to figure out the support there. You're in a different time zone. You might need, you might need to be present there as well. And, your whole branding, your socials are in a certain language, and then you would have to like double your effort there as well. So it's not that easy to do. And I can't say it happens a lot.
Okay. Well, I mean, would you say just as a business owner, entrepreneur in general, would you say, a lot of people have these dreams of like kind of, oh, let's expand to Europe, let's expand here and so forth. When they're, let's say you're at a 7-figure a month business. Would you say it's probably better just to focus on that marketing and get more market share in your market? Or at what point would you say, yeah, it is viable? Because you said there are some businesses that are doing it. When would you say is the opportune time to say, okay, well, let's expand to another market? Or maybe you could tell us why you decided to expand to another market. Like, why did you decide to do it?
I mean, like regarding myself, I'm very ambitious. And I've always dreamt about, like, let's say a world company. And I love, to get in touch with the different cultures, because one of the things I really love about my business is I get in touch with a lot of, people from all over the world. And I like to connect with them, to talk to them, to learn about their culture, also their way of doing marketing, their way of doing business, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a personal preference for me. Another thing is, I don't know how stable the euro is in the long term. I know that it's like, in Europe, it's almost, you're almost a conspiracy theorist if you even question the euro. But let's say from an economical standpoint, just looking at the facts, I see that this currency is a bit wobbly, and and one thing I want to minimize the risk. So I was like, hey, let me be in those several markets. Let me not just be in the Eurozone. Let me be also in the US dollar zone, so that if one market goes down, because I've got a lot of responsibility. I have to get, we have a lot of employees. I want them to get their paycheck on time always.
Sure, they appreciate that.
Yeah. So I really want to secure the business as good as we can, and it's worthwhile for me. It really depends on where you want to go, because it comes at a high cost. Like, for example, I have to fly to the US frequently because I need to attend conferences there. I need to be present there, be there for the US team as well, et cetera, et cetera. So it comes with a cost. And the question is also, lifestyle wise, do you really want that? Like, is that really worth it for you? Is that really worth it? Because like, as an entrepreneur, it requires your presence, your time, your focus. And if you're just basically doubling your efforts, because, also culturally, if you have, for example, if you're a German business person or a German entrepreneur, you have German employees. If you need to have US staff in the US, they have a very different culture. It's also like, as an employer, it's very different. They have a lot of other things going. They have way more, for example, political correctness. Like, that's way different. The mindset is very different. The people are more sensitive towards some topics and a lot less sensitive towards other topics. It's very, like, for me, I enjoy that. I love to work with different cultures. I'm mixed myself. Like, I have an Asian background, I have a German background, so I'm mixed myself. So for me, it's really, really fun. It's worthwhile. But if you're like a normal business owner, you have to figure out if that's really what you want to do.
Yeah. And traveling, like you said, traveling from one end to the other, if you're building your team, I mean, that takes a lot out of you. But, I do know, just from my experience at Direct Painted, is that, there's people who have very successful offers in one region, and then they think the easiest thing is really to just go to another market. But actually, the easiest thing is trying to crush your market. It's easier to get more market share in the market that you already know. Like you said, you already have the marketing, the team, and all that, versus going somewhere else and then having the challenges like you just mentioned. So, I guess everybody heed this as a warning. But at the same time, if you have the ambition that Sven has, look, he has, you have a pretty international operation, or big enough operation, but it does take some time. And I mean, just to give everybody perspective, how long has Digistore been around?
So we launched in 2012. So It's been like 10 years, not as old as your company, but almost. And it's really about, instead of going abroad, you might like do a little tweak in your positioning in the market of your time zone, for example. It could make way more sense. It's not just like going abroad is the ultimate solution. It was the solution for us because we needed a different, let's say, a different currency.
Yes.
A region, like a different region with a different currency. So a different continent. We know that the English market is a lot bigger than the German market, so it has more potential. And when we did that, when we started moving there, we are already the market leader in Europe. So, like, from a market leader's perspective, if you have like a certain level of success, it could make sense. But if you're struggling with your own market, then you might just tweak your positioning a little bit and like target another group or a smaller group that would appreciate you or your product or your service a little bit more. And going abroad might be another step down the road in the future because it comes with a great overhead and big costs, because you also, have to set up accounting and all the legal stuff and etc. and all FTC, whatever. In Germany, you don't have that big FTC thing. Like we had to hire a lot of FTC lawyers to be able to figure out like what we are allowed to do and whatnot. Whereas, for example, in Europe, they're going crazy about GDPR and data protection and privacy. Like, it's all about privacy, and per se, dealing with data is illegal in Europe, unless for these exception A, exception B, exception C. Like it has to be like contract based. It has to be like in the best interest of the public, blah, blah, blah. So, but per se, it's illegal to deal anyhow with data. In the US, it's not a problem. But in the US, you have the FTC and it's very strict there, et cetera, et cetera. So every market's very different and you can like easily lose yourself in all these bureaucratic things. But then again, when you have a certain level of success, then it could make sense. But
well, I
in
mean,
general,
right now,
I don't recommend it. Yeah.
You are selling a lot of digital product owners and just online owners to come to Digistore24, because it sounds like you've already kind of skipped all of that, and people who come onto your platform can maybe benefit from obviously you having done all those steps and your teams in the different locations. So I mean, if you are looking to, and I always say this even on a payments perspective, because people are like, well, I'll just use my merchant account in the US and process payments in Europe. Doesn't work like that. There's debit, there's different things. So it's like you need localized payment modes. So the good thing about working with a platform like Digistore24 is, guys, they've figured it all out for you. You can contact their team and voila, they can kind of at least guide you to the best practices and whether it does make sense to take your product somewhere else.
Yes, we've taken away so many. Thanks for mentioning that. We've taken away so many hurdles, like bureaucratic hurdles, FTC rules. I mean, you can just set a check mark and say, hey, I'm selling like me as for example, a US vendor. I can sell in Europe, and then you set that check mark, and then it goes through a local payment gateway, and you're still processing everything through Digistore, which is pretty amazing. I think that's pretty unique in the world. Like, especially that coming from a payment, let's say, background, and that's solely true. So we're eliminating a lot of hurdles. So we're helping companies become more international. However, you have to consider that move, especially regarding marketing and support. But you can figure that out. But I think you were asking about when does it make sense? It makes sense once you have the means to do that.
Okay.
You have to be, let's say, successful enough so that you can kind of automate this process as well, so that you can afford to hire a bunch of people that help you with that and get it going. So I think you need a certain level of success and enough time, resources.
So I have all these burning questions, and I'm like, okay, so now we have a somewhat plan. Let's say, for example, somebody who wants to go from one coast to the other and so forth. But in terms of the product itself, because I know you know a lot about this stuff, and obviously with the success that you guys have, you see this, day in, day out. But what, obviously in 2012 to now, there's been 10 years of progression in these digital products. What you did in 2012, 2015, even hell, what you did last year is probably not going to work now. What are the keys to kind of staying successful with a digital product now? Like, what are give me, let's limit it to 2 or 3 of the big things that people are doing that are making their digital program successful?
So the first thing you have to get right to really be successful is your positioning. Meaning, just like what we talked about, like if you're targeting the right market, if it's too much of a red ocean, or if you're the big player in a red ocean, that's fine. But if it's too much of a red ocean, your positioning could be, let's say, keeping you from bigger success. And the other thing, in my opinion, is how, like, the quality of your product, because ultimately the best marketing is recommendations of other people. And if they do that genuinely because they love your product, then you have like a multiplicating factor. Then you have like a factor that really helps you to constantly improve conversions over your competitors. And I know especially people from the US, they're way more marketing focused as opposed to people from Europe. But I think both are right. You should have great marketing, but also you should have great product to support your marketing.
Yeah, well, it comes back to your refund thing. A lot of time I find, like, I work in both markets myself, and I find, yes, the US is very focused on marketing and they have fantastic marketing, a lot of the merchants, but there's no meat in the product. So people buy and they're like, this is kind of underwhelming because they were oversold about it. So, I definitely agree. One thing, I guess, the first thing that you said is really niche down versus niche up. Don't be a catch-all. Figure out, if you're a coach, a fitness coach that works with, women between 40 and 50 that had 3 kids, like, just really niche down, because the world is so big now that, like, you'll find a couple 100,000 people in every niche, which could be enough for you to kind of get your start. And then you can add, more niches. And then, secondly, it's just really, at least for me, what I find is that a lot of people are afraid to give the good information as their initial offer. I feel like you should have the best information right at the beginning, and then you can kind of start watering it down. Like when somebody's listening to my podcast, when somebody's listening to you and your podcast, which we're going to talk about in a second, you can't start with, like, boring stuff or not actionable tips. Like, you have to start with something that's actionable. So if somebody, logs into your program and it's like, it takes 3 hours before they get to anything that they can actually use, you've already lost them. They've already asked for a refund and so forth. So kind of get to the point. And I'm never myself afraid to give any tips. I give tips for free all the time. I tell people all this information because that's what gets people to gravitate towards me, you know what I mean? And want to work with me because they feel like I'm sharing. So, I feel like that is a key lesson. And in terms of, when, like, you guys work a lot in digital products, but you are, if I'm not mistaken, doing some physical goods as well, right? You still, okay. Do you find that a hybrid model works well? Or if you're a digital, stay digital, if you're a physical, stay physical?
The standard is actually a hybrid model. Okay. Like a lot of people, for example, who sell online courses or online coachings, they might, like in let's say COVID periods, they might sell seminars, like live seminars, live get-togethers, in-person coachings, as well as books, for example, physical books. People like to send out physical books. That's become kind of a standard. So I can really recommend doing both, because both have their, like, usually when you create a funnel, you have like a value ladder. And if you, for example, as an entry for your funnel, if you sell a physical book that people really, really like the content of, then you already like have a really positive tone. You've set a positive tone, and you got the goodwill of the customer to go through your funnel and buy more expensive stuff from you, because they know you and they like you already.
Visual reminders, right? When somebody looks at something, they'll see it, and so that's
also marketing potential. Like, like if someone really likes your book, they might talk about it, they might hold it in camera, they might do a book review, etc., etc. And that's all like this what I call a recommendation marketing that I was just talking about. But it's not affiliate marketing, because affiliates usually they make money, they earn commissions with that. Yeah. I'm basically talking about just people who genuinely want to recommend something without even receiving any money for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's like kind of the premise of influencer marketing. Influencer marketing almost started just like of people kind of recommending, and then obviously it grew to the point that people are like, hey, I can actually make money from recommending things to people who follow me and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's interesting. I have one last question about, your marketing and just like Digistore and what you see in the future. Cause I know, you're quite the visionary and you have a lot of stuff going on. So I'm curious, what is your prediction of where things are going? Because right now, and I do have to say, I'll give you some positioning to my question. There's a coach to every coach of a coach. There's just coaching programs and so much digital content. It's so difficult to actually find something to value, because there's, pardon me, there's so much crap out there that it's like, I've actually had friends who have bought digital programs that were like 10, 15,000. They were just like, I would log in and be like, what is this? Like, this is ridiculous. So, obviously there's going to be, as the market matures, there's going to be more people wiped out. But what do you see is the future of the digital marketing, education and programs and so forth?
I think they will become more professional, because, they will all there was like a time period where Google and Facebook would have, let's say, lower advertising standards and restrictions, and it was really easy to sell a very overhyped stuff, and that will become more and more difficult. So the ones that ultimately will be able to advertise on Google and Facebook will be, let's say, more serious companies, more professional companies that actually deliver and that are perceived as like a real company.
Yeah.
So I think this is where everything is heading, and it just comes down to what I mentioned initially. You want to you want to have great marketing, great branding, but also a great product, and you want to take care of your customers really well, and you want to have everyone know about that.
Okay. So, look at your product, look at your marketing, and make sure you have good customer service, because customer service is very underestimated, I think, for every company. People don't realize after you buy, if somebody has a question, they can't get it answered. Yeah. They're charging back, they're refunding, they're pissed off, they're not recommending you, so after sales support, guys, really big one. So keep that in mind. So Sven, I just wanted to close up quickly and ask you a little bit about your podcast. Cause obviously you're running this big company and you're flying all over the world and you're supporting all these merchants, but you've also decided to have a podcast and kind of get your, share different things with the world. Tell me a little bit about your podcast and like what you talk about.
So thanks for mentioning the podcast. It's actually called Svencast. It's a cool name that my creative director came up with, Dusan. In my podcast, I like to talk about entrepreneur stuff, about self-improvement, about business, also about cool projects of other entrepreneurs. As also, just like our conversation, life as an entrepreneur is not just business, it's also what you do to for example, to recover and how you do it the best. And I've had like very interesting conversations about for example, there was someone who had like a shoe company, Xerox shoes, and so he had like a shoe company that gives you kind of like a natural contact with the ground, so you get
energy,
the energy, like let's say the negatively charged particles from the earth. You get it through your feet, and that makes you more healthy. And it's like barefoot walking, but not with those barefoot shoes, but like with more stylish shoes. And that's, for example, something I liked very much. And so I talk about how to become better as an entrepreneur in life, and how to be more productive.
So it's a little bit of a passion project, basically. The podcast. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also great marketing because it's giving value. Because the problem with normal ads is they're highly professional, they're well produced, but like nowadays, like there's, especially in the US, there is advertising everywhere. You just get in a taxi and then you see a screen with advertising, and it's crazy. Like you're being spammed everywhere. And so the only way to really get through and brand yourself is to deliver some kind of value. And I was thinking, okay, what value can I deliver? Because I just have limited time. I like good conversations. I like meaningful conversations like this one here. And I have a great network. Being like the founder of Digistore24, I get to know a lot of very interesting people who figure out very interesting things. And I want to share that with the world. And I'm also very happy that if someone just used some of the tips to improve their lives or their business or both, that really makes me happy.
Awesome. So where can we find this podcast? So it's Svencast, and is it on regular podcast platforms like Apple and so forth?
Yes, it's on Apple. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, and the website is svencast.com.
Okay, awesome. So guys, we're going to have those in the show notes below. Sven, if anybody wants to get in touch with you or speak to somebody at Digistore24, what's the best place? Is just go on the website, or is there anywhere else they can find your team?
You can find me personally on Instagram, for example, Sven Platte, SvenPlatte, Papa Lima Alpha Tango Tango Echo. And the website is digistore24.com, and there you can contact.
Awesome. Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting different people in your team, and I do have to say, just from the couple of people that I know, professionalism is huge. Like, I mean, the people are pleasant to work with. They know their stuff, and they're a fun gang. Because I actually met up. My first experience was with somebody from your team in Vegas just recently, and they have great parties. So, so that's a big bonus. So Sven, thank you so much, guys. I'm going to have Sven's information in the contact notes below, and if you want to reach out to Sven or listen to his podcast, check it out on every popular podcast platform. So thank you so much, Sven, for your time today, and I really appreciate all the tips and all the wonderful information you shared.
Thank you so much, Maria. It was great fun to talk to you.
Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's MariaSparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.